Hi, Katrin. Good
Hello.
morning and this is good evening from our end.
Yes, good
Uh,
evening.
how are you doing? How was your day has started?
It's going really well. My daughter's
Oh,
doing on some toys.
okay. Katrin, your voice is not audible.
No, you can't hear me?
Yeah, now better. Yeah, now better. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I saw your I came across about your profile and the work that you do in one of your Insta lives that you had done with Swati Jagdish, Maya Samma. So through her only, I actually in that Insta live sessions, and it was like such an eye opener for me, like such a serious topic, and how beautifully you had actually distilled it and made it so normal and so comfortable for the listeners. So for me, that was like very inspiring because being a counselor myself, I like we need to handle these kinds of topics in the most comfortable manner, right? So I felt so comforting just by listening to your words. I felt so comforting that I was like, I have to talk to her someday in my life, and I was like being there. And thank you on the first go, you accepted my invitation. It really means a lot to me. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And thank you for the beautiful introduction. Also for the work that you do in the
Thank
relationship,
you.
marriage, um,
Yeah.
these things, especially in the way that they intertwine with mental health and sexuality, is a very interesting conversation to have.
Yeah, yeah, very true, very true. Okay, then let's start this session with you being the Vaginismus survivor, and also I've gone through your profile and I was doing all this. Like I wanted to know more about you for the person you are. Your like I was so connected, so I was like reading. You being a chartered accountant as well, right? And now being the sexuality coach. So, how does this transition happen? How was your journey till now? So, I would like to hear. I'm sure audience would also like to hear about that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how life takes us on this intertwining path between the left brain logical profession of accounting, which I loved for many aspects of it. Yet I knew at some point in my career that I needed to do something more fulfilling, that in my
Okay.
help people.
Okay.
And even when I resigned, I didn't know vaginismus is what I'm going to be helping with, but pretty
Okay.
sure I
Okay.
it's perfect because you hear me?
No. Like the words are not clear. Yeah.
Okay. Is this better?
Yeah. Yeah. Much better.
Oh, beautiful. Okay.
Yeah.
So I realized that our personal experiences in life really are the most valuable thing that we can offer to other people. And
Okay.
I had struggled with painful sex, and in particular, no penetrative sex at all, because my body had put up a wall.
Okay.
Vaginismus really is the involuntary response of our body where our pelvic floor contracts and it tightens to the point that penetration by a finger, a penis, a sex toy, whatever it is, either becomes impossible or it's incredibly painful. So I'm talking, like knife-like pain or burning sensation that many people who experience vaginismus can relate to. So I started just sharing from my heart as to what had helped me, what my journey looked like, and creating a community online that seemed to be what people really needed. I recalled back to my own journey of looking for information online, trying to
Yeah.
educate my doctors on this body response because some of them weren't aware of it, and not finding very much information online. So I wanted to change that, and that's kind of how this happened.
Okay. So when you were pursuing CA, did you ever imagine that you would turn to be a sexuality coach for so many women out there who look up to you to push themselves to get out of this pain, right? Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever felt that you would ever do it when you were actually pursuing CA?
Nope, I had no idea. No
Yeah,
idea. It was probably the last thing that I would have thought of, especially at the time that I was struggling with vaginismus myself. And this was a
yeah,
6 year period of time.
yeah. 6 years. That's a long journey. Yeah.
Did
So,
you
yeah, sorry.
I was wondering how you also perceive that career for yourself. Did you feel like you would jump into this journey yourself?
Uh, Actually, I had that instinct with me that I would always connect easily to with people, and people would easily talk to me. Random, unknown people, strangers, people would come and talk to me about their personal stories, and no give and take, no solution, just be a listener to them, and people would walk away. So it had been there since my school days. My school friends used to feel very like I used to be the go-to person to them for any secrets or any suggestions, or for that matter just a shoulder to cry upon. Yes, I've been there for strangers, friends, family, relationships. For so many people I've been there. But yeah, as a profession, never thought. But I was into journalism, so I was a
Mm.
writer. I'm a writer by myself. So a lot of human stories, a lot of talking to people, knowing the psychology, why people do that, why people don't. That's when I realized that there is a gap. There is a gap that needs to be filled, and there is a gap between, and there is a dot that connects mental health and relationships. How we perceive ourselves and how we actually are doing in a marriage is actually connected. So
Absolutely.
I wanted to pursue that. I wanted to know the science behind it, the psychology behind it, the human perspective behind it. Just with the curiosity, it started developing and developing and developing. And then I've started doing this as something that I want to see people enjoy their relationships. I want to see people cherish their marriage and not feel be a backseat or be a backseat in the driver's. So I wanted
Mhm.
people to enjoy, because I feel marriage is such a beautiful, like you have a hand that you can live for life. It's like that. So I wanted people to enjoy that, see that, overcome the challenges of the marriage. So that was the main reason that I actually felt I went ahead and pursued through proper certification, and I wanted to dig deep and work with a lot of people and all. That's how I ended up in this journey.
That's beautiful.
So
Thank you
yeah,
for sharing.
yeah. Thank you. So, coming back to what we wanted to talk today. So, in a lot of your conversations, in your post, and the way you actually speak and articulate, you always say that your whole body is like connected, top to bottom, internally and externally. It's always connected. So, how do you think the sexual health is actually connected with the mental health? Like how do we feel that is actually connected scientifically, or for that matter humanly, emotionally? How do you think that it's connected?
That's a beautiful question, and I love to go deep on this because of how interesting the human behavior really is.
Yes,
And
yes.
I believe that our inner reality, the way that we perceive the world internally, is the way that we live into as a physical reality and the external circumstances that we create.
Yeah.
We really
Ah,
are the creators of our own reality, and that only starts with what's inside.
correct.
When we're kids, we actually perceive the world as though it was caused by us, as though we are here and everything revolves around us, just in the way that we that human behavior works. And so anything that we see in the world, anything that we hear or experience, we derive our conclusions from. So in my example that I shared quite recently on my Instagram stories, my parents used to fight a lot in our household, and they had a strained relationship. And of course, this was because of the way the world appeared to them and the challenges that they were struggling with. But for a
Correct.
little child, that is incredibly monumental in the way that they perceive themselves to be as a human. And for me, that meant, I need to be better so that they can be happy. I need to be a high performer. I can see that my parents are happy when my marks are great, for example. And so we try to shape and mold ourselves in order to be the person to influence our external circumstances. And sometimes that can be quite damaging on our mental health, on our physical health as a secondary aspect of this. So we kind of grow up in the world creating rules and regulations in our inner self, specifically programmed in our subconscious mind, which is really interesting. Our conscious mind is responsible for 5% of all of our behavior, but our subconscious mind is responsible for 95% of our behavior. So me observing my parents as one little example in my life definitely had something to do with me pushing myself always with being a high performer, pushing through pain because I thought that is what's going to make me good enough, just treading through. And definitely pain should not be part of the equation in overcoming sexual problems, for example. And all these other things, being a people pleaser, the survival strategies that I've developed in my life as a result of the very beginning mental health growth as a child. So that's a little piece of what the conversation includes. It definitely have to look at the roots of our life and how our nervous system has perceived it.
Okay. Okay. That was shaking the roots actually. Because we all grow in different environments, and how everything that has happened in our life is somewhere connected to our initial formative years, right? Like,
Yeah,
how important is the formative years for a child? It
very much.
has such a long lasting impact, who, like, none of us can predict that actually. It's so powerful. I would say it's like such a powerful thing, that a long lasting impact. That's why that initial formative years of parenting is needs to be so conscious, so gentle, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. And not that there's any blame to be put on the parents since they were learning their lessons at the same time. But it just becomes important to approach our growth with kindness and with compassion to both ourselves and others. Our subconscious mind is on this record mode up until we're about 11 or 12 years old. It's like a little black box that is on record mode and creating the beliefs in how we perceive the world to be up until age 11 or 12. But after that, it's only on play mode. So we continue to live our life with all of those subconscious programmings that we've received, such as one example is, men are scary. If you grow up with that sort of programming in your system until 12 years old, that could be what you're stuck with for the rest of your life unless you take intentional action to change it.
Very well said. Very well said. Actually, very simply, clearly, you put across that. So, coming back to sexual health. So, when you actually came to know that you're going through this, at what age, I would say, like approximately at what age, and what were your instant emotions? What did you feel? That how did you handle yourself? Because I'm sure the moment more than being a sexual illness or something, the instant reaction would be from a mental perspective, right? Oh my god, what is going to happen? What is the society going to say? Or what will like, we've always been on the other perspective, think, right? From what will the other person say? So how was your reaction? How did you handle them?
Yeah, so I had my first red flag that was the most obvious one, and I started taking action at 18 years old. That's when I tried having penetrative sex for the first time with my first boyfriend.
Okay.
Before that, I had some challenges with inserting tampons, for example, which many
Oh,
people
okay.
struggle with.
Okay.
but I didn't think much of it until 18. And so
Okay.
my first reactions were when I tried having penetrative sex and it just wasn't going in, my partner's penis wasn't going in because there was a wall there. First, I actually thought, oh, that's okay. It's probably going to be tough for the first few times because we grow up with this notion that first time sex is supposed to be painful, which is also a big part of the problem because we expect it and
Okay.
so it comes true. But after that
So,
first
but it's not
reaction,
true. But it's not true, is it?
it's not true. It shouldn't be painful on the first time.
Oh,
And
okay. Okay.
it's largely because of the sex education or the lack thereof that we receive that we have this bracing around sex because we feel it's going to be painful and so we create it to be painful. So that first reaction when I was experiencing the wall was, okay, keep calm. It's all right. This is probably how it's supposed to be. You know, maybe I'm
Mm,
not supposed to have a wall there, but it's supposed to be painful. So it's okay. We'll figure it out.
mm, mm.
And a few times later, with trying, things weren't getting any better. At one point, he was able to insert his penis, but it was incredibly sharp pain and just absolutely telling me, okay, something is wrong. This is not, it's not supposed to be quite this bad. So then my reaction went into action mode because I was like, a go, 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 like we've got to do this. And emotionally, my reaction was quite painful as well. There were themes in my life around that relationship of I'm broken. There's something wrong with me, and you don't deserve a broken girlfriend, right? I want you to be having fun. I want you to be using your early 20s to be having this enjoyment that we all look forward to so much. And so there was a lot of insecurities in that mental health aspect of my life. Yet the doer in me was trying to take action and find answers and get through it. So it was both sides of the story fighting against each other, really.
Ah, okay. So, do you think our past experiences or whatever we actually go through in our life with respect to words or the way we are, how we look at ourselves, everything impacts the sexual health as well? Do you think that impacts?
I do think so. I think our body physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually has a lot to do with each other. That interconnectedness is incredible once we start to dig deep into how it works. So, our self image, the way that we see ourselves in the world, again, driven by the subconscious mind, which is responsible for 95% of our behavior, that impacts the way that we behave in the world and the way that we see ourselves as a woman, as a sexual being, is going to impact how we be in the world as a sexual being. So if I grow up with the belief system that I'm not good enough for one reason or another, maybe my uncle, when I was 5 years old, yelled at me for not doing something good enough. It's possible that my nervous system took that to mean I'm not good enough, period. And the way that that enters into our sexual relationship with a new partner can be devastating because even though they may be looking into our eyes and telling us, I love you, you're amazing, you're perfect, if we don't believe that about ourselves, unfortunately, all of the conscious talking and the conscious work is not going to change that. So some deeper healing is required.
Yeah.
What would you say on the topic? Would you say your self-image has impacted your sexual life?
Yeah, big time actually. Like, not self-image. I've been like a very going person. Like, I would just go do everything and everything. But I had a lot of fear of sex.
Mm-hmm.
So it took quite a like that we have 5 years in marriage, and it has taken almost few years for us to have a good sexual life. So yes, I had my own share of a different I would not say that I had gone through fully of what you have gone through, but yeah, somewhere some parts of it when you say that primary, secondary, and everything. So I think the initial I had, and lot many times that when there is a fear when somebody is actually other than your partner is actually even a doctor is actually examining that place or the pelvic pains. There's a fear, and sadly I didn't know actually to handle it, so that fear itself didn't allow me to take the what to say, the treatment or whatever you say.
Mm-hmm.
So I was not able to take the treatment. So because of the fear, it's not that I didn't have access to it. It was because my own fears and the mental blocks that I had, it just stopped me. It was the biggest barrier for me. So how do you think that these fears are common to everybody, but these fears are never spoken? Like people
Mm-hmm.
don't tell it out because there's so much of shaming about it, and there is so much of mocking about it. What is there in that? That's what people say, but there is so much in that, right?
Absolutely. We naturally fear the unknown. And so
Yeah,
anybody listening who's wondering, why am I fearing? It is a very natural behavior as a human being to be fearful of what we don't know. It is like
correct,
walking through a dark tunnel,
correct, correct.
not knowing what the next step holds, not knowing what's around the corner. And so our nervous system is on high alert. And that's what vaginismus really is. It's a nervous
Yeah,
system that doesn't feel safe.
yes,
How do you go about that? It's
yeah,
it's all about adding a sense of comfort into the situation, whatever that looks like for you. And sometimes taking the leap to just share your story with someone is too big of a leap. It's too much for you. It's too overwhelming. Again, very natural.
correct.
And instead, we can engage in anonymously being part of these discussions. Similar to people who are watching this right now, it's a beautiful step towards being able to take action in some way, shape, or form that feels right to you.
Yeah, yeah, well
So,
said.
yeah.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things I would say that what like I have seen a lot of people talking about it to me personally, but I because I don't have much knowledge about it, I didn't have I didn't know the ask the right questions to me. So how do you think that somebody should prepare themselves mentally before they actually have to confront it to somebody like you or somebody who's passionate about all this or somebody who's a professional in this industry? How do you think that someone should prepare themselves mentally? Of course the procedure and everything is going to take time and everything, but the mental preparation is also very much needed, I believe, that to embrace the treatment, right? You need to embrace it. It's not like some tablet you're going to take and the fever is going to go. It's not like that. So how do you think that we need to mentally prepare ourselves for it?
Great question. And I don't think there's one right answer, but I'll share a few tips that could
Sure,
be
sure.
helpful for people. One would be the conscious knowing and certainty that I want to
Okay.
tell people right now is that pain should not be part of the process. Mainly, what we fear is that pain because we've experienced it before, and so we feel we're going to have to push through it in order to get better. And something that I have found has brought a lot of peace to my clients is just the conscious knowledge that pain is not part of the equation in order to be able to overcome painful sex and vaginismus in particular. The idea is to start training the body to associate pleasure with sex as opposed to pain. So that's one little conscious insight.
Contract.
Another tip would be to start following certain sex educators that you find that your curiosity brings you to in order to normalize the conversation internally around these topics. When we realize that we're not alone, when I felt
Yeah.
that I was alone, I felt like I was at the lowest place in my life, laying in bed at night and feeling like everybody else is having a great time. Like, what is up with me? Why am I the odd one out? And when people can engage even anonymously in communities online, in person, I guess if it's not anonymous, they realize that they're not alone. And then it becomes more normal to have those conversations. The inner talk becomes healthier in the mind because remember, our language creates our reality. And a good teacher of mine said, that's why it's called spelling, because our language casts spells. And this
Wow, that was
includes,
nice. Yeah.
thank you. And this includes our inner talk most of all. Our inner talk most of all creates our reality. So if we can take the reins around our inner talk and start becoming the observer of that little voice in our head, asking it to be kinder to ourselves as opposed to that mean voice that we sometimes hear, that if we spoke out loud to another person, we'd probably get slapped in the face more than once a day. Right? So meditation as a technique is wonderful for this. I'm a big fan of mindful practices to help calm down that voice and create a kinder experience for ourselves.
Yeah, that's nice. That's really nice. I really like how you connected the spells and the language. That was really nice. And I always believe that, or I always felt it from a very long time, especially when I actually started studying, working with people, couples, individuals, how people have their relationship. The one thing I realized is we've always been taught how to talk to others. We have never been taught how to talk to ourselves, right? So I feel that is like such a big block. From the child, we should know, as a child, I should know how to talk to myself. But that part of learning itself is somewhere absent, and the way we talk with others has been more been focused and given more value to it. And I think that also adds to the self image and how we perceive ourselves, and in turn the whole life it has an impact about. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was really nice the way you put it across, that mindful practices make a lot of difference.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many tools out there that I've been more deeply exploring as I've become more and more passionate about helping people. And what's important to remember is that we don't necessarily need to know the cause of our experience of painful sex. We don't need to know the cause of our trauma in order to heal it. And many people come to me and ask, I have no idea why this is happening, and I've been so frustrated that I don't remember what caused this. And what I like to say is that the body knows, and if the subconscious mind decides that the conscious mind is ready, those memories will surface. So we need to be
Okay.
at peace if those memories aren't quite surfacing yet. And there are certain tools working with the physical body to engage in the natural trauma release techniques that the body's system can actually be put into without knowing the story around what happened, to release the tension and the trauma that's physically stored in our muscles. And for a tight pelvic floor, that's incredibly important. And I'm just starting a certification process to be able to formally help people with this in putting the body into this mechanism to release tension and trauma in a safe and controlled environment and without talking about the story. It's absolutely beautiful. I experienced it on myself, and I'm so excited
Okay.
to guide people through it.
I don't know. It sounds very different, and a different experience, because for any problem that happens in a life, the immediate thing is, why did it happen? It's like an unintentional and a very voluntary reaction is to find the cause, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this journey, without even finding the cause, you can just get over and get what you actually need in life, or what you want to feel in life. That's amazing. I don't want to know the cause. I want to know the solution and just enjoy it. Right?
Right?
We all want to do
Exactly.
it. Just that intention is actually giving so much of happiness to me. That joy that I would be experiencing at the end of that process. That's amazing, Katrin, that whatever you are thinking, the idea, the thought itself is so powerful. Cheers to you, kudos to you on that, really.
Thank you.
Yeah. So coming back to my questions, I have actually written down all my questions so
Hmm.
that I don't miss this opportunity.
Of course.
Yeah. So I just wanted to know that when you had gone through this, where you like you had a relationship and you had like, how do you think that as partners, the counterpart can help the person who's going through this? Because I feel that's important. The other person should also be well informed and groomed to handle this.
Yeah, that is a conversation that I can have for hours. And a few principles of this that are
Yeah.
important are to live with the assumption that the other person has the best intentions for you. First, coming from the self, the person who's experiencing the pain in a relationship with another human, is to work with the subconscious mind and our nervous system to be at peace that even though at times the other person may act in a way that isn't perceived to be supportive, that their intentions are good and that they love us and that they care. So both partners in their own self work need to get to that level of understanding and peace within themselves that the other partner loves them deeply. And so how does the other partner help in this, right? Because that's kind of the
Yes.
question here. It looks differently for people, and the most important thing is to have an open form of communication and open communication channels to discuss what support looks like for each person, right? Maybe I prefer, and here we would be getting into the conversation around love languages. Maybe I prefer that for my partner to show me that he loves me, that he speaks kind words to me, right? Words of affirmation, or writes me a letter or a card or something to keep reminding me that he's there for me, no matter what the actions may be. For another person, quality time spent together is their most important priority. Another one could be acts of kindness. And so, in the example of my fiance and I, his main love language is acts of kindness. And so I understood the importance of his expression of love in what he does for me. And my love language was a little bit different. So we needed to come to some sort of understanding and agreement around that.
Okay.
When it comes to painful sex, the way a partner can also help is literally through the emotional healing and the physical healing journeys of this, where in the physical healing journey, this can look like helping in the dilating process. Dilating is definitely not the be all and end all of this. This is what I was told when I was first going through vaginismus, that I should just use my dilators, insert them one by one, things will get better, and that's not the case. So in this little piece of the process, a partner can be beautifully supportive by literally helping in creating that intimacy, having sex that is not penetrative sex at first, taking penetration completely off the table, and having that mutual agreement to form a sense of safety and a sense of trust in the relationship that can then be built on. And later, a partner can help with physically inserting the dilators.
True.
Another thing partners can do on the emotional aspects of the journey is have a system of checking in with each other on how they're feeling emotionally. So for some couples, this can look like having a little whiteboard and in the morning writing what they are from a 1 to a 10 in terms of how full their battery is. And visually seeing that number can help you have a gauge of, okay, I can actually be there for my partner more today because it seems like they're having a tough time. And I'm going to make sure I don't get triggered as much as I otherwise would have because I'm taking them into consideration. And a final thing I want to say about this is that hurt people hurt people. We act often as a result of our wounds, and our wounds are what drive our behavior. So when we are observing a partner who is acting out of their wounds, if we can come back into ourselves and remember that hurt people, we can approach that situation with as much compassion as possible for the other person as well as ourselves, so that our triggers don't build off on each other, so that we can understand them in the first place and with compassion be a team to face any problem.
Yeah, that was nice. I don't know. I'm lost of words actually. That was very beautifully. I've actually said that a partner is like a strength, right? When you're actually going through a weak phase, and you've just put it across so beautifully. And I'm so happy that I've come across you in this path. Our paths have crossed actually in this life. I
Me
really feel
too.
that. Yeah, because not many people think, because they, in many cultures these things are still taboo. And even if somebody out of so many millions of people speak, it's always like, what is there in that? There's nothing. Like it's just, sex is so glorified, right? But the little nuances, the little pains that are actually in between the sheets, nobody talks about. And how important this partnership and marriage is also very, very critical of how their sexual health is, sexual life is.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's like very nice. Yeah. I also saw the link of your book, and I actually saw a lot of your Insta videos. So, and I saw that you're giving it for free,
Yes,
and you just asked the shipping cost.
that's right.
I was like, okay, why should someone give it for free with all the hard work in that? So tell us about your book a little, how people can actually approach it. What is that they're going to get out of it? So that if somebody wants to take a copy, they can take it from you.
Of course. I made a video to introduce the book and to show it on camera on my website for anybody who'd like to see it. My
Okay.
website is katrinwithlove.com.
Okay.
And the book I decided to make for free because I wish I had that when I was going through vaginismus, that there was somebody out there that was just like, here's some hope, here's some information, like you're not alone. And that's why I decided to go ahead with that and make the book free. I still have, I think, about 120 copies that are printed and
Okay.
we'll be giving away. So the book itself is a little memoir of understanding vaginismus. It doesn't include very many details about my own story, except for a few main principles, about perfectionism, people pleasing, my personality, and how that led me to becoming the alpha woman that I was, that kept me stuck in this pain
Yeah.
and in this physical tightness. But yeah, the book is something that I feel is a little piece of me that somebody who's just getting introduced to the process could really benefit from and have some hope as a result.
Okay. Yeah. Hope is everything in life, right? Like when you're actually blinded, also, there is some hope that you actually live with. So thank you so much, Katrin. This session will be treasured for life with me, because this is somewhere I could actually relate. Maybe because personally, even I've gone through in a very, very subtle fashion, and because of my own fears, I couldn't go and approach somebody. So it was such an eye opener that there are passionate people like you who want to genuinely help people. Take it slow, take it slow, to embrace the emotions that are going through as a person we are, and then go into the whole process of healing and everything, right? So
Yeah,
that was
absolutely.
uh, that
Take
that's like any healing needs that, right? Yes, please.
Yeah, I love what you said about taking a slow pace. And the pace looks different for everyone, but definitely slow and safety go hand in hand. When
Yeah.
I when I assign home play activities with people that I work with one on one or couples one on two, We have games in which the speed is incredibly important when we start talking about the role of pleasure in the process and experimenting with our bodies, with touch to find safety within our nervous system. Slow is a huge part of it.
Yeah. Like in this so fast and busy world, I feel we are sometimes so disconnected with our bodies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't understand, what do you say? Understand the indications that the body is actually giving us. We don't get it. As a child, the child understands the connection with the body. We are so disconnected from it. I sometimes feel that way. And that's why somewhere our mental health and every perspective of our life is actually being little traumatized or something, I believe. Yeah.
Absolutely. Speaking for myself, I was, at the time, I didn't know it, but looking
Yeah.
back, I was very disconnected from my body. And a big part of the process involves beginning to listen to our body again and honoring her,
Yeah.
specifically honoring our vulva and our vagina when it comes to sexual health and
Yeah.
creating that healthy relationship again, that communication channel.
Yeah.
It's a very
Yeah.
spiritual experience, very deep emotional healing process for sure.
Yes. Yeah. Will you be okay, Katrin, to answer a few questions? People have asked for question. Is it okay?
Absolutely. And can
Yeah.
I check in with you what time it is, just so I can make sure I'm on
Um,
time for my next call?
yeah, I think we have 10 more minutes left. Is it okay?
Beautiful. Yes,
Yeah.
perfect. Let's go ahead
Yeah.
with questions.
So, one of our friend has asked, is there enough awareness about vaginismus around the world?
No, it's not, there's not. And that makes me sad at times when I really deep down reflect on this because there are so many people out there who are not knowing that there is a name to their experience.
Yeah.
So, no, there isn't. And this is why we're having this conversation. And I'm so glad that people are tuning in. It's my mission to spread that awareness about vaginismus and overall sexual well being.
Yeah.
It's a big part of our lives that's not talked about enough, unfortunately.
True. Well said. So there's one more question. Selva Prakash, as a new married couple, how we can maintaining both? Can you be a little clear, Selva Prakash? The question is not little clear.
Maintaining both. I'm not sure if we were talking about physical health and emotional health. So,
Okay.
as she clarifies that, maybe we can talk about how to overcome vaginismus because
Yeah.
that's a big part of the conversation we didn't quite touch on.
Yeah.
The way that I see it, there's three pillars, and this is what what's important to talk about as a structure. So there's the emotional healing, the physical healing process, and also the big pillar of pleasure and finding safety in our nervous system through pleasure that I find is not talked about in our medical society as a result of the shame that we have been steeped in, and our doctors have been steeped in, unfortunately. So, the emotional healing journey. This
Yeah.
involves a few things, and the subconscious mind that we talked about is a big piece of this. Because if you picture yourself as being this big ship, the subconscious mind is the anchor in some cases that you're trying to move forward, but the anchor is down and it is holding you back because your inner beliefs are not in line with your goals. So there is a process that I use. It is one that the scientist all about biology of belief, his name is Bruce Lipton. He speaks about this and raves about it, and I'm trained in it, in which we can work with the subconscious mind and reprogram beliefs that are not in line with your goals. And beliefs isn't even a great word for it. It really is the deeper part of that iceberg underneath the surface that needs some molding and needs some help. So that's a big part of the emotional healing journey. Another
Okay.
piece is working with some of the trauma that we have stored inside that we may not be aware of in terms of memories. But even if we are aware of the memories or not, I use a practice from the Tibetan tradition in order to create a sense of peace around those experiences of our past so that they're not continuously polluting the present moment. They're not continuously polluting our experience of life now. So that's a quick summary of the emotional. The physical includes the pelvic floor relaxation exercises to start to gain that awareness and control of our pelvic floor muscles, and also to relieve any tightness in the physical body. Often our leg tightness, our lower back, our chest is sometimes very tight, shoulders. All of that is contributing to pelvic floor tightness. And we need to look at the whole body as a whole system in those pelvic floor relaxation exercises to relieve the tension that's already there. And then only with the right speed and the correct guidance on the dilating process, start to use dilators in order to act as checkpoints that, hey, like this is working. Penetration is actually possible for me now, and it is pain-free. Little by little, incorporating dilating with an internal massage practice as well. That's called trigger point release, is
Okay.
very, very key in the physical aspects of the journey. And what I mentioned around tension and trauma release is another aspect of this. And finally, pleasure. Why pleasure? Because our nervous system is wired very differently to experiencing safety in our body. Each person, similar to how they have different love languages, have different erotic languages. And so when I work with people one-on-one, we explore this aspect in a great deal, because pleasure is just overlooked way too often.
Correct. Very true.
That's
Very,
it.
very true. Uh, so there was this one question who was talking about, that person had asked about how to balance the mental and sexual health together. So what do you recommend for that? How do they balance it in their day-to-day life?
That's a wonderful question. How to balance. And again, this looks different for everybody. Setting an intention for your day can be incredibly helpful. And again, if that can be supported with the subconscious mind being in line with this, would be beautiful. And what do I mean by intention? Is reminding ourselves that whatever happens today, you're approaching it in the best way that you possibly can. Given your worldview in this moment and your energy in this moment, and the intention of being kind to ourselves and showing ourselves love is probably the most powerful of all. And it is helping to balance our mental and our sexual health. When we can look at ourselves in the mirror and look into our eyes and say, I love you, Katrin, right? Use your first name, and believe that. This is the foundation of being able to balance our sexual health and our mental health, because it all ties into self-love. So that's one little tip. And I know that's easier said than done, but there are practices to help you get there as well.
Yeah. There's one more question. You touched a bit on fears, but when it comes to pain, and after a long time of pains, how does one get over the fear of future pain?
Amazing question. I've created a resource on this, which I've called the Confidence Builder System. And this is helping to move from the cycle of pain, which is exactly what this person beautifully expressed, is that expectation, the bracing and the avoidance of the pain, which then creates a tightening to experience the pain even further. So we need to break the cycle. And emotionally and mentally, the way I like to start this off is by engaging in a practice to help you gain confidence and clarity about what this would look like, without jumping too quickly into trying penetration again. So we want to set you up for success fully, emotionally and mentally, before we go back into that physical process, so that you have successfully climbed out of the cycle of pain and you're feeling great, and you could actually start from a fresh slate, as opposed to a slate that's polluted by your past experiences.
Beautifully. Beautifully said. Very nice. I could connect to it actually. Yeah. In many cultures, talking about sexual intercourse, even with the partner, is a taboo. How does non-partner approach the issue with the help of person going through it?
We touched on this a little bit earlier, so if this person wasn't here for that chat, they can go back. In terms
Okay.
of actually having the conversation, I like to use a structure that I call a dyad, and this helps to actually create a safe space and context of that conversation so that both people are feeling like they're contributing in a way in which they're heard, as opposed to in a way that feels too scary. Now, of course, getting into that dyad and that conversation can have its challenges as well, because you need to start it in the first
Sorry.
place. So having a support to help you do this would be very helpful. And of course, a partner that you feel safe around, because that is the foundation of being able to have these conversations in the first place.
Yeah, I think we don't have any more questions. Thank you
Okay.
so much, Katrina, for taking time, enlightening us with so many different thoughts, so many different perspectives that we can actually take that little effort to do in our day to day life. Hello. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you so much. Uh, yeah, able to hear me?
You did freeze for a second, probably because my phone is low battery, but I can hear you now.
Okay, okay. So I was just saying, thank you so much for your time, for your effort, and more importantly, for all that you do for this world, for so many women. You give so much of hope. Everything comes down to hope, and I really so connect to it. Thank you so much for joining in, and I'm waiting some other day. We have some other conversation about some other topic connected to all this.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for your kind words, and you're very welcome. It's my pleasure. And thank you again for the work that you do. These conversations are absolutely priceless. So I'm glad that we could have them.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank
Bye.
you. Have a good
Yeah,
evening. Bye.
bye.